I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time.
Hello and welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James. I get the privilege of introducing you to fabulous women that inspire me, women that have taken charge of their lives, women that are fearless and fierce. They've stepped out into the world and they show us that there are many portals to possibilities that we can use to create the lives we've come here to live, to stand in our greatness. I do these every week, and we are on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Spreaker, Amazon, YouTube video. Sign up where you get your podcast and come back and meet a fabulous woman every week because their stories are incredible. This woman that I'm going to introduce you to now is, I've been a fangirl of hers forever, and she's a friend, and she has supported my life in various and sundry ways, and she's amazing. Her name is Arielle Ford. She's an author, she's a speaker, she's a relationship expert. She is a celebrated love and relationship expert to help people find love, keep love, and more importantly, be love. She's a gifted writer and award-winning author of 11 nonfiction books, including the international bestseller, The Soulmate Secret, Manifest the Love of Your Life with the Law of Attraction. And she's also written many groundbreaking books, including Turn Your Mate into Your Soulmate and Wabi, Sabi Love, The Ancient Art of Finding Perfect Love in Imperfect Relationships. I mean, they call her the Cupid of consciousness and the fairy godmother of love. But this is what I'm really excited about. She has a new book that's just come out. It's called The Love Thief. It's a roller coaster ride of love, betrayal, unexpected transformation with a juicy revenge subplot and a surprise ending. One interviewer said, "The Love Thief is an emotional journey where you'll finish so completely satisfied, you'll want a hypothetical cigarette." I love that. Arielle, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Cynthia. You were one of my very first early readers of this project long before I finished it. So I thank you so much for taking the time and for giving me good feedback and all of that.
Well, it was my honor. And I want to talk more about that. But I want, Arielle, can you just talk about how you grew up? I mean, because you've had an extraordinary career, not just with yourself, but in supporting others in being successful. How did you grow up?
I was an unremarkable child. I grew up in a very sort of lower middle class household with two parents who hated each other. And I was a terrible student. My parents had bets on whether or not I'd actually graduate from high school, which I did. And I eventually graduated from college. I was depressed as a kid. I was suicidal as a young adult. I did not have an interesting life until really one day when I was 28. I was at a party, a very fancy schmancy party, and I saw everybody laughing and having fun. And I thought to myself, what's the matter with me? How come I'm not having any fun? And I decided in that moment that I was going to start to study happy people. I was going to teach myself how to be happy because it wasn't coming naturally. It wasn't organic for me. And I spent many years doing that. That was sort of what led me into being interested in spirituality and personal growth and reading books. And I learned there's that old saying, fake it till you make it. Well, it actually works. I would just pretend that I was happy, even when I wasn't. And eventually along the way, Happy and I found each other. And then now, we can talk about this later. I learned during the pandemic that happiness is the wrong goal.
What is the right goal?
So happiness, whether it's the car, the guy, the house, the designer handbag, that's all attached to people, places, things, and experiences, most of whom you have no control over. And when they go south, there goes your happiness.
Yep.
So happiness is not the highest place to go for. What I discovered is that there's this ancient Sanskrit word called santosha. And santosha means utter contentment. And when you are utterly content, it doesn't matter what's coming or going. You can be in this really grounded place of being with what is and being okay with what is and making what is okay. And happiness may be there and it may not. But when you have santosha, that for me is the highest level of achievement.
Oh, that is fabulous. Okay, ladies, I hope you wrote that down. Because
Yeah,
that
I actually went to Etsy and had this stone made.
oh, I love that.
As a daily reminder, because I like the happy feelings, just like I like the feelings of being in love. But as we all know, anybody who's married to your soulmate knows those feelings don't last. And you could love your partner a lot and still have days when you want to kill them. And it doesn't mean that you don't love them, right?
Exactly.
So I'm now 70, and as I've grown up, I've learned that, you really have to make your own definitions for words. Lots of people think they know what love is. I've discovered most people are clueless as to what love really is. Most people think if they get the next thing, they're going to be happy. And, I've reached for really big things and I've gotten them. And then 2 hours later, I'm back to, well, that really didn't do it for me. I'll tell you one quick story about that. I was on this mission once, I think it was in 1980, and I was dating this man who was a nutritionist and a fitness freak, and he had me on this program. And I decided that in order for me to be perfect, I needed to wake up one day, weigh 125 pounds, have all 10 of my nails the same length, my hair would have no split ends, my measurements would all be a certain thing. And on that day, I would have reached perfection. And I spent an entire year measuring every piece of food that I ate, weighing it, running, lifting weights, doing Pilates, whatever. I mean, it was charting everything. And then before the year was over, I broke up with the guy because he turned out to be a lunatic, but I stayed on the program. I reached perfection on a day that I was at what did they call those resorts? It was a singles resort in the Bahamas. I forget what they're called. And I woke up and there I was perfect. I was so perfect. And I couldn't tell anybody. What am I going to do? Walk up to strangers at the resort? Hi, this is Arielle. I'm perfect. And, within an hour, I realized that I was still a miserable person. Now I was hot, but I was miserable. What was good about that was that I never did that to myself again. I never went in, oh God, if only I could lose 10 pounds, if only, I was in better shape. I realized that none of that would bring me happiness. Now, feeling good would bring me more joy, if I could feel healthy, but 10 or 20 pounds either way wasn't really going to impact that. So I've just been my own petri dish trying to figure out how to get through life with as little craziness as possible and as much joy as I could make happen.
I think that that's incredible. And I've watched you over the years, and I've watched you reinvent yourself and recreate. And I want to talk about the fact, because at one time you were an artist rep, right? Were you an agent?
I was a book publicist and a literary agent for many years, deep in publishing, and also an author. And I was always very much behind the scenes, pushing my clients into the public eye, and I was very good at it. I was world renowned for my ability to do that. But that I got bored after a while. I did it for 13, 14 years, and I woke up one day and I was done. So I changed careers like every 7 years.
Yeah, but okay. So what made you say, okay, I'm done repping other people. Now I'm going to do it. I'm going to write books and I'm going to get out there in the world.
It wasn't a conscious decision. What happened was, and I know you know this story, I was a first-time bride at 44. And after Brian and I got married, every single woman over 40 was calling me. How did you do it? I want a Brian too. And I had a plan. I was a manifester. I gave them my plan and it was working. And then, people kept saying, oh, you should write a book. And it's like, I'd already written 6 other books on other topics. It's like, no, I don't want to write a book. And I thought, oh, the internet was brand new then. I thought, I'll write an internet product. I'll put together some CDs and a workbook. And then if anybody wants my plan, they can have it. Well, it turns out a big publisher saw my internet product and offered me a large amount of money to turn it into a book. The book turned out. Then I started getting calls. People wanted me to speak at Esalen and Omega and, all those kinds of places and teach workshops, none of which I planned to do. But since I'd never planned to write that book anyway, and suddenly all these opportunities were coming at me, and I discovered it was fun. It was more fun than, smiling and dialing 100 calls a day, trying to book my clients on the Today Show. So that sort of happened. And then that grew on its own because after I manifested my soulmate, I quickly discovered I had no partnership skills. So I decided instead of studying happiness, I would study love and become a student of love, and ended up writing other books on, found love. Okay, now how do you keep love? Because, there's no guarantee you could find the greatest person in the world and blow it, which I was on the verge of doing. So none of these things were on my to-do list. And then, 4 years ago, this novel popped up in my head like a movie, and it just started unveiling and revealing itself. And I was like, no, I don't want to write a novel. I don't know how to write a novel. Go away. But it didn't go away. So here we are today. I spent 4.5 years writing, and now the book's about to come out.
Well, okay. I have a whole bunch of questions based on that little bit of sharing. Okay. First thing is, because I know everybody out there listening, or a lot of them are going, well, you manifested your soulmate to get married at 44. So, and you got this plan. But first of all, what made you think you could do it? And second of all, how'd you know when he showed up?
Okay, 2 different questions. Here's when I knew that I could do it. Like I had the idea, I was thinking about it. I knew how to manifest because I'd already manifested lots of cool things. But I was watching Oprah one day, and Oprah had Barbra Streisand on.
Oh.
And Barbara was in her mid-50s and had just gotten engaged to James Brolin. And it was in that moment that I knew with 100% certainty that if God had a man for Barbra Streisand, who anybody who's lived in LA knows what I mean by that. She's not easy, right? If he had the perfect guy for her, I was going to be a piece of cake. So that's when I knew for sure. And now I can't remember what the second question was. Oh,
well, how did you know when you saw him?
How did I know? Okay, so I had a dream 3 weeks before we met. And in the dream, there were 7 women dressed in purple singing to me. And the lyrics of the song were, Arielle is the woman who comes after Beth. So when I woke up in the morning, I saw that there was a sign. The sign was, my soulmate's out there. He's currently with somebody named Beth. That was my clue.
Okay.
I ended up going to Portland, Oregon on business. And I called my client, he was an author. I called his office to tell him I was coming up to supervise this big TV shoot I'd arranged for him. And he put his partner on the phone. He said, oh, here's my partner, Brian. He'll pick you up at the airport. I land at the airport. This guy, Brian, is exactly where he said he was going to be. I take one look at him and I have this thought, I wonder who Beth is. And then I'm thinking, you don't even know this guy's last name, but somehow there was this recognition. An hour later, he turns to me and he says, when I picked you up at the airport earlier, did I look familiar to you? And I said, yes. Why do you ask? And he said, well, I've been dreaming about you. So we knew, everybody at the shoot knew. 3 weeks later, we got engaged. And a year after that, we had 3 weddings. And that was 25 years ago this month.
Wow. And he's just a love bug. He's just fabulous. And the two of you are incredible. So I just want to say, ladies, pay attention to your dreams and absolutely know that you can manifest your heart's desire.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about.
There's one thing I just want to say to these women out there. Your age is inconsequential. I've got 3 emails last week from 3 of my clients, all over 60, 2 of whom have never married, who are now engaged to great conscious men they met online. Okay, age is not a factor. You're not too old. You're not too fat. You're not too damaged. It's not true all the good ones are taken. There is no shortage of love in the world.
Okay, no shortage of love in the world. All right, so I want to go back to this book because, I mean, I just read the first iteration and I couldn't put it down. I'm like, ooh, and then what? And ooh, and then what? Okay, so you didn't know how to write a novel. This thing was dropping in, and where did you get the idea?
It just kept coming to me. I didn't, like I said, I never wanted to write a novel. So I never went looking for the story. The story kept coming to me, screaming and kicking to come out, and really there's a level at which I feel I channeled this book on so many levels. Now, once I started writing the story, I really got into it because it's the story of a toxic narcissist. It's the story of a woman who gets her heart broken, her dreams crushed. He steals all her money, and she comes up with this revenge plot, which works, and it has a happy ending. And I was able to write it because I'd had so many girlfriends who'd lived that experience, who I had been on the phone with when they were at the depths of sadness and grief and depression, and also reaching new levels of anger and rage and ping-ponging back and forth with all these intense emotions. And so I was able to sort of pull from all the experiences I had witnessed, including some of my own, and concoct this story of this very evil, monstrous man and this very likable, lovable woman who was on the verge of 38, never married, and her clock is going wild and she desperately wants to have a child. So it was a lot of fun to write it. I rewrote it many, many, many times because, as I said, I didn't know how to write fiction. I had a steep learning curve. And now not only is it going to be a book, but there's a Hollywood producer who fell in love with it, who wants to turn it into a limited streaming series at some point when the writer's strike is over.
Well, of course that happened because it's you. But you know what I love about when I was reading, it's like we as women, we have this fantasy of what this love is going to look like. And so we open ourselves up to interesting beings coming in that are not necessarily for us. And then we have to deal with the consequences of that. So I guess I would love to just have a little conversation about getting past the fantasy and opening to what real love is.
Good. Okay. So, you know the song by the Beatles, All You Need Is Love? That is a big fat lie. It's one of the biggest, fattest lies ever told on planet Earth. Love is not nearly enough to sustain a long-term, happy, committed marriage. You need some love, but it's not the number one thing to go through. They've done science, and what they found is the people with the happiest, longest, healthiest marriages have certain qualities to them. They have connection, compatibility, clear communication, some chemistry, although chemistry surprisingly isn't the most important. The number one most important factor in having a long, happy marriage is a shared vision for the future.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's really important. And the other thing is that most people don't really know what love is. So they think love is a feeling. Oh, I'm in love. I have champagne bubbles going through my veins. What the state of being in love is nature's greatest drug high. It's nature's trick to get us to procreate. But the truth is, when you're in that state of being in love, you're with a stranger. You don't even know this person. All right. But you're ready to commit your entire life and all your money and all your resources and your heart to a stranger. I like to call the state of being in love the socially acceptable form of insanity. Okay, because it is not love. What's love then? Love, first and foremost, is a behavior. Love is a choice. It's a decision. It's a practice. It's an action. And just as I said a few minutes ago, you can totally love your partner, and there will be days when you want to kill them. And it doesn't mean that you don't love them. So it's really important, especially for smart, successful women, to really understand all of these elements and what love is. And when you're making the biggest, most important choice of your life, that of a life partner, that you're choosing not just based on feelings. Is this somebody who's going to be devoted to me, somebody who really has my back, my best friend, my lover, my safe place to land, somebody who does what they say they're going to do and means what they say and is an emotionally mature adult that is financially responsible. It doesn't matter if they have 1 million or 10 million or no money at all. What's important is, are they financially responsible? Can they actually hang on to the money that they have? So all of those factors, just like you wouldn't take the first job that comes along. Oh, there's a job and I get to wear a sexy uniform. Therefore, I take the job. No, you want to know, like, well, what are the benefits? What's what are all the things I need to know about it? And I want to talk to people who once worked there. So how do you know if you're with your soulmate? So easy to know. You want to have been with them for a minimum of a year in an exclusive relationship. You want to make sure you've met their friends and family, and they have met your friends and family, and that there's no big red flags there, that you can count on them. And that most importantly, that when you're with them, you feel physically and emotionally safe.
Yes. Oh, yes. The thing is like, and I can share this because there was a time in my life where the fantasy would like come flying in, and I'd want to rush into these committed relationships, and the people were crazy and I was crazy. And so, I mean, those three things that you just said, I mean, game changers. A year with a person is a good thing, and meeting both sides and seeing how people respond to that. I mean, it's great. Okay, so I wanna know what's next.
Right now my sole focus is getting it out the door. So my publication date is June 27th. It's really hard to get people to buy a book. For some reason you can get them to buy $1,000 program faster than a $20 book. But my purpose for the book is that I wanted women who'd been through the experience of surviving a toxic narcissist, who had been betrayed and had their heart broken and crashed on and all of that, to know that they're going to get over it, that they are going to heal, that there's love after betrayal, and how to do it. Because this is not a self-help book. This is a novel. It's a romantic spiritual thriller. But through the back door are these teachings of, like it's not your fault. When you get targeted by a narcissist, you didn't do anything wrong. Even if you stepped over the red flags and you couldn't help it. And why couldn't you help it? Because they set you up. You're now a junkie. These men are charismatic, charming, often good looking, and they see a smart, successful single woman and they know exactly what to whisper in her ear. They know that there's this lack of romance and excitement in their life, and they just, I think I've been waiting my whole life for you. We're going to make the most beautiful family together. I'm going to be taking you here and there. Two people have never been happier than how happy I'm going to make you. And you're hooked. You're a drug addict, right? And then 2-3 months later, who they really are shows up, and now you're confused. Like, I know he's in there. I just spent 2 months with him. Where's that nice guy who didn't lie to me all the time? And even when they're lying to you and you confront them that they're lying, they're either going to gaslight you, or they're going to say, you're right. This is really a core negative wound I've been trying to get over. You're the first woman who I think is smart enough and I respect enough to help me heal. I can't become a better man without you. That's the kind of shit they talk. They
Right.
know how to do it. And so anyone who's ever been betrayed like that, if they read this book, by the end of it, chances are they're not going to fall for it a second time, because they're now going to understand. It's like, if you ever have the thought, oh, this is too good to be true,
It is.
chances are it is. Maya Angelou has this brilliant line where she says, if somebody shows you who they are, believe them, right? Right. And the first time you don't do it. Why? Because you're a drug addict, because you just love how great it feels to be in this, being swept away, literally, like a broom came and swept out all your common sense and logic. It's all gone. All you have is this more, more.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that you said that. And a part of the toxic narcissist entree is our deep desperation to be seen and heard and cared for, and so they just fly on in.
They know how to do it. They know
They
exactly how to do it.
they do.
They can be very persuasive. And I honestly don't know any woman that hasn't had this experience.
Right.
But nobody really talks about it. So when I was writing the book, I had some friends that were early readers, and one day one of them called me and she was just sobbing, and it's like, what's the matter? What happened? Are you okay? Oh, I'm halfway through your book and I've never felt so seen or heard in my life. I've never been able to express what I went through. I don't think anybody else had ever been through this. So it has that coding in there, this healing coding thing, which came through. And I'm pretty sure it's my sister on the other side who was whispering in my ear the whole time. Because as I said, this was not a choice for me to write this book. This was like, it's here, and I've been chosen to birth it, and hopefully it will help a lot of people.
Well, I'm sure that it will. And just like all of your other books, it's opened to dialogue and created spaces for people to have deeper conversations and reflections on who they are and how they want to operate. How do people find you?
Well, my website is myname.com, ArielleFord.com. And the book site is thelovethief.com. And if you go to thelovethief.com, I have this incredible bonus if you order the book. And what it is I got 10 of the world's top yoga teachers to each give me yoga philosophy and a yoga pose on a different negative emotion. So there's one on betrayal, anger, grief, forgiveness, connecting with the divine, all of these things. And I've been actually using it a lot myself. Every time something pisses me off, I go do the anger pose. Because my protagonist, Holly, goes through this roller coaster of emotions. And she, that's the other thing I forgot to mention, she is not a seeker and she's not a believer. Her mother is a new age baby boomer who put dream catchers over her crib. So she's a reaction to that. And it's only throughout this process that she comes to understand and make a connection with the divine.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, so there's book. Have you recorded the book yet?
I'm in the process of putting that together. I want to do something really special for this book. So it's going to be what's called a full cast audio. Every character will have its own voice, and there'll be a soundtrack and there'll be sound effects. and it's going to be this full-blown thing, and it's a big production. So I'm now doing the character breakdowns, and then I have to go to the casting agent, and then I need the producers. There's a lot of moving parts to it, but I'm
Love it.
super excited.
I'm so proud of you. It's so exciting. So, I ask the same last question of every guest. This show is called Women Awakening. What do you think is the most important thing about women waking up on the planet at this time?
Oh, you know, I think being fearless and speaking your truth is one thing that could possibly save yourself and a lot of other people. This whole like, let's be nice, let's not stir the pot kind of stuff doesn't work anymore. We are circling the drain as a humanity. Things are bad and they're getting worse. Nobody's coming to save us. So I think what we need to do is be willing to be honest with ourselves and speak the truth to power and the truth to everybody else around us. And if they don't like us, too bad. But I think we need, the 4 billion women on the planet to be speaking up, speaking loudly, and speaking truth to power.
Well, beautiful, Arielle. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. I'm so excited to be a witness to your unfolding.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies, I say the same thing every week with a little different twist. I love what Arielle just said, speaking truth, but I want to say your authentic self is enough. You never have to prove yourself. You never have to get other people to validate you, to honor you. You get to stand in who you are because it's enough. You get to bring your gifts because they're unique. You get to bring your light because it's unique. You get to bring your power because it's unique, and get ready for the universe to sync up and meet you there. And anybody who can't walk with you, oh, well, too bad. So I'm so grateful that you're here every week. I can't wait to see you next week, and enjoy your day.